Here we go. Are you ready, Jennifer? City of Smithville, special call council meeting, May 21st, 2025. Notice is hereby given pursuant to the Texas Open Meetings Act, Vernon's annotated civil statute, Article 625217, that the City of Smithville will conduct a special call council meeting on May 21st, 2025 at 5 p.m. in the council chambers of City Hall, 317 Main Street, Smithville, Texas. Call this meeting to order. We will go into a closed meeting, executive session pursuant to section 551.071 Texas Government Code, consultation with attorney regarding legal issues associated with proposed public improvement district policy. We'll be right back. The time is 5:00. What time do y'all have?
501. 501.
5:01? Executive session, action will be taken tonight, which leads us into number 4, discussion and possible action on public improvement district policy.
Okay, everyone, as everybody knows, we have been going over the PID for the last 2 or 3 months very, very intensely.
That's at the time.
It's 5:19.
And
Different than
we've
yours.
made a lot of changes to this. We've brought back a very high-level document that's very restrictive. We did this because we want them to come to us if they want to change anything and they want variances so that they will give us something if we give them anything. This document is, I think, one of the best PIDs that's been done, and I really, really like it.
I'm sorry, did you make that a motion?
Not yet, no, sir.
You make it a motion, I'll second, we can discuss it. I've got another comment.
All right. I make a motion that we accept the PID, PID Improvement District Policy. That's it. That's all it is.
Second?
All in favor?
No,
No,
discussion.
I was just, you have a motion in a second and I was gonna.
No, you want to go ahead?
Okay, I agree with Councilman Jenkins on this. Was a lot of work and discussion has gone into preparing this document because we wanted to get it right. And this document, as it stands, sends a message to developers that we're open for business. We invite you to the table, but the parameters that we want to have any discussions or negotiations are set forth with this. And so please come and talk to us.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Motion is approved. Next item on the agenda is discussion and possible action on impact fee process.
Okay, Mayor, Council, and citizens, we've been looking into impact fees. There was some pending legislation that failed to get passed, which actually helps slow down the timeline. Impact fees are a very arduous and tedious process with which we'll have to follow. And Jason has outlined that process in a summary that you have and is also on the screen. So I'll open it up for discussions or comment.
Jill, we'll kind of just talk about it generally.
Yeah.
Yes. We can come forward, please. Thank you.
So is this on? All right. So as Robert said, I prepared this outline. This is something that's intended, for public consumption. And so it's just a real high level of this is what it is. This is what it does. This is how we do it. So for folks that don't know, an impact fee is a fee that a city can assess under Chapter 395 of the Texas Local Government Code. Thank you, Andrew. That allows it to basically recoup costs that it needs to expand infrastructure when that expansion is necessitated by growth. So it's a way of making the new guy pay for all the pain that he's causing everyone. When it's time to upsize water lines, when it's time to build roads, those kinds of things, because a new development is coming in, we want those folks to pay their share. Okay. The way it sort of, big picture is the first thing you have to do is you're going to appoint a committee. That committee is there's sort of a steering committee for the rest of the process, which involves mainly the capital improvements plan and then actually adopting an ordinance. The committee can either be sort of an ad hoc, 5 people at least, or you can actually appoint the Planning and Zoning Commission as that committee. Me personally, I recommend appointing the Planning and Zoning Commission as that committee because then it gives you a group of folks that know about the city. They know everything that's going on. They know and a lot of them know the history. They know what the current developments are, and there's always going to be members of P&Z because this obligation of that committee lasts the entire time that impact fee ordinance is in place. Okay, and so every few years they have to do 2 reports a year every year about the implementation and how it's going. And then if there's ever time where it needs to be updated, they're in charge of that process as well. Okay. So that's the first step is you appoint that committee. The next step is adopting the capital improvement plan, which contains what's called the land use assumptions. So the capital improvement plan sets out the land use assumptions, which means this is how we think the city is going to grow in 10, there's supposed to be 10-year time frame. Okay, we think it's going to grow from here to here. And in order to accommodate that growth, we need to make these sets of improvements to our whatever utility is. In this case, it's the wastewater. Okay. The wastewater study that we have now has a 30-year time frame that can be scaled back, I assume, very easily. So because that's just, it's 10 years is what's required under the local government code. So that can be scaled back pretty easily. And then you constantly update your capital improvements plan and your land use assumptions. So your land use assumptions say, okay, we think this area is going to, we have it in our comprehensive plan. This area is going to be light industrial. All right. So you think, what's the build out of that going to look like? And it's just, you have your engineers and your planners kind of get together, and this is what we think is done. And then the wastewater study does all that. And so what you would do is after you appoint the committee, you would also at the same time, you have to do it by ordinance or resolution, set a public hearing on adopting the capital improvements plan, which includes these land use assumptions. The committee has time during that 30 days. You have to post a 30-day notice of the hearing. So depending on when y'all want to have the hearing, you got to publish a notice at least 30 days. Actually, it's 31 days before that hearing. So it this turns into about a 2.5, 3-month process, from beginning to end. Luckily, we already have the study done. So that's the biggest part, is just getting that part done.
Accelerated, right? Or is that just regular?
So it's you have to have a 30-day notice for the capital improvements plan hearing and a 30-day notice for the actual ordinance adoption hearing.
So-
Now, you could be 20 days in between those things, but if you want to kind of compress that time frame, you're looking at about 60 days, 90 days.
Well, I know the one bill died either in committee or on the floor. I don't remember which one, but there were 2 other bills that were going to impact fees. One was that they were going to make it so it had to go to a vote, and a few other things that was in one of the bills that Bettencourt put out. And I don't know where that is right now. I haven't seen anything on it, and there was another one from somebody in Amarillo that was impact fees. There were 2 of them. Well, 3 of them counting the one that just went down. And I will try to send you those numbers. I've got them in the team stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know go ahead.
The biggest challenge we're going to have besides those bills is identifying what fraction of the $37 million wastewater expansion study that's going to apply to the impact fees. So it's good that we're not under an accelerated schedule, because we have a lot to figure out and look at. The comprehensive plan is a component to develop the land use fees, and then the wastewater expansion study is a component to figure out the calculation of what those impact fees will be. So this delay is really going to help us. My question is that if you decide to move forward and you appoint either the P&Z or another committee, we don't have, the shot clock doesn't start until we go to that public hearing. Just because we appoint a committee, will we have 30 days or do we have time to?
No, you have time. The 30 days is a minimum notice time.
Okay.
So if you want to, it's just, you can't have your hearing until there's been at least 30 days from the notice. So if you want to have your, committee meet for a month or whatever, you can. Just when you're ready to schedule that hearing, it just has to be done by ordinance, and you have to give a 30-day public notice.
Yeah, because what has changed since I gave you the wastewater expansion study, we found another provider, a more environmentally friendly group called Reuse, that's going to greatly reduce the cost of the total infrastructure upgrade. So we have some things to figure out to determine what the impact fee will ultimately be.
But at the same time, we can start the process and lay the groundwork with the committee assignment and the hearings. And one question that I had is, should we or could we dedicate the impact fees or a portion of them for a specific cause, such as defraying some of the cost of the wastewater treatment? Can we dedicate it? Should we dedicate it? Or does it need to be a more flexible?
Well, it's strictly for capital improvements.
Right.
You can only use that money for capital improvements. So new lines, expanded facilities, those kinds of things. That's what that money has to be used for.
So we don't need to go further than that and specifically say it goes to wastewater treatment.
No, I mean, when you do
That would tie our hands. So-
yeah, right now your capital improvements plan, it only addresses wastewater treatment. And so that's what the impact fee will be, is wastewater treatment. Now, if y'all want to do other things, water, electricity, roads, whatever, it's going to require its own CIP, capital improvements plan.
I think the wastewater with everything from, I think the new lift stations that we're gonna need along with everything is gonna be quite intensive anyway. I think we need y'all to stay with where we are with this. And so you're saying we can't have the 30-day meeting until we get a study done? I'm not studying, but
I'm saying that
rate.
if you decide to appoint the planning and zoning as your committee, we can still, the shot clock doesn't start just because you appointed the committee. It doesn't start till you make the public notice that here's our proposed CIP, here's our proposed impact, fee calculations. That's what I wanted to verify. If you
We could-
appoint a committee now, it doesn't mean 30 days from now we have to have a public hearing. We have too much to figure out.
Or we could set a public hearing date in the future that gives us a milestone to try and accomplish. Like I would like to see us get all this done by the end of the year, which is a lot better than what we were up against with September 1st. I mean, the bill, my understanding, I was in touch with Representative Gertis' office this afternoon, and it died from a procedural error. So it doesn't mean it might not come back up, or the Senate might attach it to another bill, or we could have a special session later and it could be brought back up. So I'd like to see us go through the process and go ahead and be prepared for this, because certainly it's something that we need to do.
Agreed. And one of the key points is coming up is the June 9th meeting where reuse will come back and present what part of the total picture they can support. And that's what I feel I'm going to recommend that we pursue. And the lift stations are included, as well as the new plant itself, one at Gasly and one at Willows.
Can I ask for clarification? So the impact fees are assessed on the total purchase and installation, or are they phased as we do a project? Or how are they imposed and when?
Typically, the impact fee is assessed at the time whoever files their subdivision, their first like their preliminary plat or whatever their application is, the impact fee is due then. And so however many, because it's going to be divided, X amount of dollars per unit or per LUE. And then, so depending on how many units they have, that's how much impact fee they have, and they have to pay that when they apply. Some have it, it has to be paid before you get connected to utilities. But typically it's paid right up front.
And the developer pays
Then
the
developer pays that.
impact fee. Okay.
Now, Robert, do we assess when we get, say, reuse gives us all of this and it's allotted for however many LEUs that's going to be? Is that where we're going to do the division of how it's going to be, how much it's going to be cost for each LEU for the total of what the new that we're doing?
Yes, you'll get a figure of what a LUE costs per new development, and that'll be multiplied by however many connections there are. But the good news is that Ryan Henry Law Firm will be with us along the way to develop the ordinance and navigate the process. So Jason won't, but anyway.
But everybody's got my cell number, so. Yeah. So one thing I do want to just add real quick is you can see that calculation that's on there, the cost of capital improvements, and there's a credit required under Chapter 395. And there's a formula that you can either calculate that credit one of two ways. It's either 50% of the total capital improvement costs, or there's this other very complicated formula that I don't quite remember. But basically what it boils down to is you take the total cost of capital improvements, divide that by 2, and then divide that by the total number of units.
I got that.
Yeah. So it's not going to be, so for example, $37 million. Well, it's not, you don't divide the service units by $37 million. You divide it by whatever half $37 million is. I'm not a mathematician.
Question for my colleagues in terms of if we were to move forward with this and establish an advisory committee. I certainly like getting the expertise of our colleagues on planning and zoning. I'd love for them to be a part of it, and maybe an additional two of us would be appointed also to assist in that process so we can.
Well, they couldn't, I don't think city council members can be on the.
We can't be on it?
No, sir.
Well, and that's what I was saying. Well, I wish we could be on that.
Oh, okay. You wish you could be on it, yeah.
Of course I do.
I really think of the path forward is with the P and Z. They know our ordinances, they know what we're going through. We don't have to get a new group of people together that have to learn to work together and everything else. P and Z already knows how to do that, so I think that's the path forward.
Plus, they're awesome. Killer Kilgore and the rest of the motley crew.
Who's
Thanks
here
for
from P
stealing
and
the
Z?
thunder.
Lee, are you the only one here from P and Z? There she is. Okay, I couldn't, Jason was in the way. So, yeah. I'm sure that y'all will love having this. Yeah, y'all would love having the project put on your shoulders, and you guys are stable going forward. Would you have any changes coming, or?
He used the word stable.
Stable is.
Yeah.
The three of you are good, yeah.
Anybody have any other questions for Jason? He's on the clock.
I do have
Well,
a question. Mine's more
Okay.
for Robert. When is the land use plan coming?
We have an update coming in June and they'll do a timeline. It's spring, December, spring timeframe is when the comprehensive plan is scheduled to be complete, right, Jill?
Is what? Repeat that?
December or January, February timeframe. So we're having an update at the next council meeting on the whole timeline for the comprehensive plan that also has a land use.
Yeah, and that was part of what I wanted to ask before we went any further on this. This is something that we talked about in strategic initiatives, was pulling out land use planning and capital improvements as so that we don't have to wait for the comp plan to be finished. And I think that us moving forward with this, we'll go ahead and draw that out. And I would love to see that update. in
Yeah,
June.
and to that point, you've already got the wastewater expansion study
Yeah.
that Langford is using in their land use.
Yeah.
Portion of the plan.
So I guess just, I may be mishearing, but from what I understood, we have to have the land use plan to understand how the land is being used, to calculate the LUEs, to figure out the rate.
Well, there's under chapter 395, they use the term land use assumptions. And the land use assumptions are part of the wastewater study or capital improvements plan. And they can be exactly the same as the comprehensive plan. They don't have to be, and they can also be tinkered with and changed as the process moves forward. So if you end up with something from the comprehensive plan that's drastically different than what's in the land use assumptions in the capital improvements plan, those can be adjusted. So they're complementary but separate processes.
This will be more like a living document that we will be able to move forward and backwards, whatever we need to do with.
Any other questions? Mitch? You look like you're thinking.
I was thinking it, and let me put this back out here in terms of all of the pressure being on the P and Z. Perhaps that we do allocate a couple of more positions for citizen volunteers to be a part of this. Asking for your thoughts on that from my colleagues.
My thoughts is right now, P and Z, if it comes to the point where they're getting overwhelmed, then we can appoint additional members later down the road. I think leave it with them right now is what we need to do.
Any
I
other
agree with
thoughts on
that too. I agree. Planning and zoning is a group to start digesting it and then moving forward. I feel if there's other people need to be invited to the table, I feel they will share that with us.
Sure. Mayor, would you entertain a motion?
Motion away.
I move we direct the city manager to move forward with the recommendations from legal counsel to 1, appoint an advisory committee on impact fees, and 2, set a public hearing in the future to consider land use assumptions and capital improvement project for wastewater in the city of Smithville service area.
I'll second that motion.
Do we need anything else in it? No.
No, sir, because at the next meeting is when we'll have an ordinance appointing the P and Z and then an ordinance setting that public hearing, or we can even do that, setting the public hearing later. But just to make sure it's agendized properly, have a special agenda item says, consider appointing P and Z as the impact fee advisory committee.
Okay, motion's been made second. All in favor? You got it? Jennifer? All right. It passed. Do
Thank you.
we have anybody signed up to speak? Remind everyone, Memorial Day is Monday. We will have the laying of the wreaths on May 26th at 9 a.m. at the Veterans Park. So join us if you can. Thank you. Meeting is adjourned.